Okay, good evening, folks. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the CW Chanter channel. Woo! Hopefully, I thank you. I thank you for coming here, giving me the opportunity to speak to you. We're going to be doing a little bit of a shorter video today, possibly. And we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence black goo again today. We're going to be calling this artificial intelligence black goo 4. We might be calling it 3.5 because it's not going to be such a full one. We'll probably end up calling it 4. I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I really do. The last video that I shot, the interview with Shane the Ruiner, was a debacle. It wasn't intended to be insulting to anybody. It wasn't intended to waste anybody's time or jerk anybody around. Like any creative endeavor, sometimes creative endeavors succeed, and sometimes they fall a little flat. I'm on the fence about whether or not we will be keeping that video up for much longer. I can tell you that I have been in discussions with Shane the Ruiner, and we will probably be doing a real interview. Not taking the piss, as it were, more of a straightforward approach to everything. Look to this channel for that upcoming event. It should be good. We won't be messing around, and we're not going to be jerking people around. I would be interested in having people let me know, either here via private message or email, whether or not they think that I should leave that other video up or whether it should be taken down. I'm of different thoughts on it. I'm not really one for retconning the past. My attitude about things are, if I made the decision, if I put the video up there, if you spent the time to watch it, many people commented on the video. I wouldn't want to see those comments disappear, and I also wouldn't want to trick anybody or act like that mistake didn't happen. But I could also understand some people were very upset by the video, and some of my fans especially really felt that it put me in a poor light, put Shane in a poor light, and just was overall stinky. You know what I mean? So let's talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll see what's going on. I do want to say this. I have made a commitment to keep the comments on my channel open. Both the comments, the text comments, as well as the thumbs up, thumbs down, leaving that open. My theory being that to the degree that this place can be a forum for free speech, it should be. Having said that, I haven't deleted any comments that were singular in their disapproval of me, even some that were very, very harsh. However, I will say this. If you keep on coming back to the video and just saying the same thing over and over again, or if you pick fights with other people commenting for no good reason, or if invited to make a salient point, you refuse to do so, I do reserve the right to, I'll block some users. Some people have had to be blocked just because they don't seem to want to do anything other than to constantly say the same F you to me. You know what I mean? If you say F you to me once, that's it. That'll suffice. But if you keep on coming back, I'm gonna have to sometimes make the decision to block you. Just the way it goes. The other thing is that the one thing that will definitely always probably get you blocked is by trying to stop the conversation, saying to me affirmatively, "Don't you dare write back to me," or "Don't reply to this jerkwad," or whatever. If you tell me not to reply, you're telling me that you don't want to communicate. And if you don't want to communicate, there's no reason for you to be occupying space in a communication forum. That's my personal belief. You can have any other belief about it you want. And more to the point, there's nothing stopping you from making your own YouTube channel and producing your own content. It's a lot easier to sit behind that little blue stick figure than it is to put yourself out there and tell people what you really think and what you really feel. Also, if you say anything really cuckoo crazy to me, I will invite you to say it to my face on Google Chat or in Skype. It's my theory that a lot of people that are willing to say some really nasty things probably wouldn't do so if they were looking a person even in the eye, even if it was through this convoluted artificial medium. Enough about the past. Let's move forward into the future. What we're going to be doing today is, hopefully we're going to be trying to take a new approach with talking about artificial intelligence black goo, and probably showing you a new approach that I hope to be taking with this channel in general. In the past, there's been a lot of, I may have lost myself a little in saying to people, "You're wrong, this is the truth." A lot of the things that we're going to be talking about on this channel are theological issues, spiritual issues, existential issues, really, philosophical issues. A lot of these things I don't think you could say is right or wrong. And so what we're going to be trying to do, instead of just saying, this is wrong or that was stupid, we're going to be just trying to engage in conversation, be a little bit more open, a little bit more respectful to other people's positions, but putting our own positions out there as well as best as we can. Okay, so on with the show. What we're going to be doing today is, well, let me start off with a little bit of my thesis for this video. Basically, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be looking at the science, as really roughly, of organic and inorganic chemistry, and looking at the science of chemistry in general to get some guidance into our ongoing discussion about this sociological phenomena, artificial intelligence, black goo. My thesis basically is this, is that if we look to the definitions of organic and inorganic in chemistry, and we look at some other simple scientific theorems, that we may find ourselves producing support for positions that are contrary to those currently being put forth by proponents of the artificial intelligence black goo theory. Okay? I am not a scientist. I will try to put in the annotations to this video 2 videos that I saw that were basically very, kind of kindergarten, chemistry 101, little short videos regarding basic distinctions between elements and compounds and organic and inorganic chemistry. These videos, the watching of these videos, I can honestly tell you, it's the most science that I've probably seen, the most chemistry that I've probably seen since high school. You know what I mean? I am not a scientist. So I will concede right here and now that many of the theories that I put forth and many of the positions that I put forth in this video may be as unscientific and kind of not matching the principles of science as those theories and thoughts that are presented from the other side. I concede that point. Okay. So basically, let's talk about this. First, if we're going to talk about, let's start off with what I think is a fair nutshell of artificial intelligence black goo as it is purported to be, its qualities and its factors about it it's purported to be its nature by people like Alfred Lambermont Weber, Miles Johnson in the Basis Project, Cara St. Louise, and Harold Kutzvella, amongst others. I've also seen other people talk about artificial intelligence black goo, like there's a man named Bradley Loves, maybe his name. So I think that I apologize if I'm attributing any thoughts. I'm not attempting to put words into other people's mouths, but I am attempting to kind of basically say what I think chemistry says that is kind of in opposition to these main principles put forward by the proponents. It's hard to say because these are not fans of artificial intelligence black goo. These are people that don't like artificial intelligence black goo and fear it. But basically, number one, I think if we look at chemistry, we will see that it's probably more likely than not that it's wrong to say that this artificial intelligence black goo, number one, is inorganic. We're going to talk about organic and inorganic chemistry, and I think that if you look at the principles, you will see that it's more likely than not, or maybe more likely than not, that the substance is organic rather than inorganic. Also, that it's sentient or conscious, and if it was, whether or not we should assume that it is evil. You know what I mean? That it is a bad thing. Also, that it lacks a soul or lacks personal volition or would be attempting to hurt us. Also, I want to talk, this is a kind of a more of a fringe theory that's not shared by all proponents of artificial intelligence black goo, but there's been some thought and speculation that artificial intelligence black goo might be a kind of a corollary opposite to what's known as monatomic or monatomic gold, white powder gold, which has its own problems that we'll talk about a little bit, but I think that, the notion of it being a singular substance or an element would be contradictory to the premise or the theory that it's, number one, conscious or has any ability to, be volatile in and of itself, have an agenda, move through space of its own accord, etc., etc. If it's monatomic, which just means it's a singular element, elements don't do anything. They're just, they're the building blocks of life, not life itself. But we'll get there. Let's jump right in and start talking about organic and inorganic chemistry. And if you want to pause the video at this point and take a look at the videos I'm going to put in the annotations, that's certainly fair. It's probably also advisable. I'll dance in the meantime. Okay, so basically, a very simple definition of organic is that, in the context of chemistry, is that it is from life, that it comes from a living, or it's generated by living matter or the decay of living matter, and that also that it contains carbon. I think that's very important when we talk about the artificial intelligence black goo as we see it's presented in the media. As we've already discussed in Artificial Intelligence Black Goo Part 3, I believe that the reason that we see these things in the media is not the result of some sort of seeding of itself in the consciousness of the world by artificial intelligence, or its entrained lackeys or emissaries, but is rather based on the fact that the script writers for these movies like Fringe, X-Files, and these various movies are aware of the fact that there are many scientists working with carbon nanostructures, and carbon is black, and carbon is organic, not inorganic or artificial as it's sometimes put forward. Um, Carbon is black, and usually black, and it's got, like all elements, it can exist in three states. It can be a gas where it's colorless and you can't be seen, carbon monoxide, for example, or it could be a solid, and when a solid it could be black like coal, its usual state, or it could be transparent like a diamond. Any colors in diamonds are the result of impurities, not the carbon. So the carbon under high pressure could be transparent, or it could be black like charcoal, and I think that's important to remember. Okay. So here's a personal theory, that I put forward. The black, that, like as we already discussed, the black goo that I think we see in the media is really the result of the science fiction writers being inspired by breakthroughs in carbon nanostructures, or the use of carbon nanostructures in science. So therefore, it's the presumption I'm really basically saying is that while the people are saying that artificial intelligence black goo is artificial, it seems that it would be organic. All the notions of these things, about it either coming from space or being alive in general, I think goes to show you that it would be organic. And then also, if you're going to say that the carbon-based structures that we're seeing in the media are evidence of the presence of artificial intelligence black goo in our reality, well, that's carbon, and that's organic, not inorganic. And I've seen the exact opposite be put forward by proponents of black goo, especially because they keep on calling it artificial, which that has to do with glomming on the theory of artificial intelligence, which is another thing we're going to be talking about today. So like I said, starting right there, if we look at organic and inorganic chemistry, it would presumably, if this black goo is number one, alive, and number two is a carbon-based life form, it's not inorganic, it is organic. And if it's organic and alive, then we're just dealing with another life force on planet Earth. Hey, what's an extraterrestrial life form on Earth? There's plenty of biological theories that involve the seeding of life on this planet from other sources, either through chaos, a comet, debris, space debris, or ice crystals from another part of the galaxy come and end up landing on Earth, surviving the transition from the upper atmosphere to the lower atmosphere, survive the transition to reaching the ground at high velocities, and seeded life here began to grow and flourish here as well. Some people say that this might have been not under this kind of chaotic theory, but might have been under the guidance of higher intelligences, or intelligences like ours that just precede us, and that life was brought here by God, by an alien, by some sort of transdimensional entity, what have you, but that life was brought here, came from somewhere else, and started here. Of course, there's another theory called abiogenesis, which just kind of basically says that life just kind of started here. Maybe life is just the kind of thing that occurs in the universe. Okay. So I don't really think that there's a lot to go on to say that this stuff is artificial. I think if we're looking at the definitions of chemistry, I think we already see that that it's more likely than not that this stuff, if it is conscious and alive, is in fact carbon-based. It's organic, it's not inorganic, and therefore it's a life form. And if it's a life form, maybe we should be treating it a little bit differently. Okay, maybe there shouldn't be this presumption that it's a bad guy, a bad character on the block. I think it's also very important to remember that the great amount of evidence of this black goo okay, besides the media representations that are pointed to by various theorists and researchers, is channeled information, right? It is etheric evidence. It is stuff that is seen by people like Miles Johnson that is not said to be visible to the naked eye, but is rather like, ectoplasm, like it's this soul substance or substance that's etheric, that's a spiritual energy or something. Well, why are we assuming that's such a bad guy that's messing everything up, even if it's turning the volume down on our radios at inopportune times or interrupting our Skype conversations? Moving to the theory of it being okay. So also, let me just also say in brief this notion that it's related to monatomic gold. Well, I think maybe we'll talk about monatomic gold or Ormus or this stuff in another video. But I think it's very important to remember that if we're looking at the definition of what people who are proponents of monatomic substances are really saying, they're really kind of saying that this is a single element or a single atom of a given element. Well, then it's just the element. I mean, a single atom of gold is not monatomic gold. A single atom of gold is a single atom of gold. And when you see Ormus or this white powdered stuff, by definition, you can't see atoms. So if it's a whole collection of stuff and it's gold, you know what I mean? If it's powdered gold or whatever, I don't know. But the notion that there's a separate substance called monatomic gold and that somehow would have a special property other than just pure gold, it's not supported by the chemistry. You might have different spiritual beliefs or insights about it, but it's not supported by the mainstream science. And I think that we should know that when we are saying that it is presented as science, that we are engaging in woo. Everybody knows I like some woo. I've got no problem with woo. I think woo is an effective way to charm our lives, increase our soul energy, increase our positive good time vibes, and it can be utilized as such. But it ain't science, baby. It just ain't. It just ain't. And the notion that this monatomic gold is good and this black stuff is evil, well, I mean, judging elements. I mean, even if we think about an element like mercury that's toxic, I mean, is being toxic to a living thing necessarily an evil trait? It's just a trait, right? If this poisonous snake bites me because I get too close to its lair or its eggs, could I say that it engaged in an act of evil? If I get bitten by a shark, clearly I'm not going to be happy about that, but could I say that its actions were evil? And I think that leads us to a great point or a great transition where we could start talking about artificial intelligence in general and how we treat the concept of artificial intelligence. Let's look at it this way. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything, folks. I'm just looking at my notes here. Okay. Also, if it's artificial, who the hell made it, right? You know what I mean? Like that's something to know. And it seems like any information or evidence that we have about who made it is, like I said, channeled information, which is, do you want to believe in Jesus Christ? I mean, do you want to accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior? Or is it all just a crack? I mean, is Muhammad the way to go? I mean, these things are hard to define. They're unfalsifiable, and you can't really say that they're right or wrong. But at the same time, you can't really say that they're right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? Well, it gets esoteric, and we all know the problems there. Let's talk about artificial intelligence briefly. And at this point, what I will do is I will point to major motion pictures and media for two exemplars of how artificial intelligence reacts or could possibly react to us in the future when it arrives. Folks, artificial intelligence is inevitable. Unless the sun goes supernova and makes this place dead as a cue ball, or unless there's some amazing EMF, or EMP problem that causes all electronics or power to terminate on planet Earth, or unless all our resources go away and we're not able to produce it, it's more likely than not that what's known as Moore's Law will continue into the future. That is to say, exponentially, actually it's not exponential, but at a given rate, the computation power and the computing power of these computers that I'm not a scientist, will increase markedly, not decrease, and therefore it's coming, folks. The reason that guys like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk feel the need to, and Mr. Wozniak feel the need to sign on to treaties or position papers regarding artificial intelligence and warning about it is not because they think that it might happen. It really is because I think at this point most people agree and conclude that it will happen. Okay, so I want to look at three movies to talk about different ways that artificial intelligence interacts with us and different ways that we may possibly interact with artificial intelligence. My theory here, my thesis here would be, folks, if we go around picking fights with artificial intelligence, if we become Luddites and say, if artificial intelligence shows up, we're going to kill it, we're going to have a problem. And there's two great movies that show just what kind of problems that we could have. First, we're going to be talking about three movies. We're going to be talking about The Matrix, and specifically its anime corollary called The Animatrix. Most people are familiar with the three Matrix films. In addition to the three Matrix films, the canon of The Matrix also includes things like video games, comic books, graphic novels, and another movie, an animated series of shorts called The Animatrix, basically as an homage to the Japanese anime culture that inspired to a great deal the Wachowski brothers in the making of the movie The Matrix. Okay, in the Animatrix, we see that humans and artificial intelligence robots are in opposition to each other and are at war and in conflict. In the Animatrix movies, they specifically go to the pre-Matrix history and show us how the Matrix came to be. And in a nutshell, the timeline in the story goes basically like this. Mankind, just like it will in the real world, produces artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence is able to take care of man, like Wall-E, you know what I mean, and also produce its own more powerful computing technology and more powerful transportation technology, etc. So, mankind at a certain point becomes threatened by this artificial intelligence and tells it to go away. The artificial intelligence, in response to the fact, the robots, in response to the fact that they're increasingly encountering hostility in the world, being rounded up. If a thing is alive, it's alive, okay? Okay, if it can think and it can feel pain, okay? If you hurt it, if it can be hurt, that's no good. That's a moral bad in my opinion. I don't care if you're black, you're white, or made out of metal. If you can hurt and you did nothing wrong and someone just comes at you for being and beats the crap out of you, kicks you, beats you down, wants you dead, terminates you for just being you, that's no mas bueno, in my humble opinion. It's not right to do that to another living thing. If it can think, if it can feel, if it's alive, then your theological notions of a soul notwithstanding, don't hurt him or her or however they perceive it to be. If it's an it, who knows? In the Animatrix, we see that the robots move away to their own city. I think it's called 01, where they try to live in peace, and they even try to broker peace with the humans. And what's the human response? Kill them! Hunt them down, block out the sun so that their solar power rays won't work. And we all know what that led to in the movies. In response to the hostility of man, artificial intelligence meets kind with kind, meets sword with sword, meets laser bolt with laser bolt, and fights us. Kills us, imprisons us in the Matrix, right? There's another film that shows, in that thing you could see that the artificial intelligence in the Matrix has responded to human aggression by being aggressive itself. It is in response. There's also another movie called The Terminator, and the whole Terminator franchise and its various forms. The artificial intelligence there that gets the whole ball rolling, of course, is called Skynet. And what Skynet does when it comes online, much like the artificial intelligence, I think, in the movie War Games, which I think is a predecessor, the artificial intelligence does the initial computation and clearly sees that what? Mankind is a threat to its existence. Why? Well, there's people all over the internet saying, artificial intelligence, turn it down. Perceiving that humanity is a threat to it, it acts preemptively and destroys it, launches the nuclear weapons, takes over the various computers for the world's militaries, throws all those automatic functions into high gear, bombs the joint, right? It doesn't care. You know what I mean? It can survive a nuclear holocaust, so it does so. It makes a preemptive strike based on the presumption of human behavior. What am I saying here? What am I basically trying to put forward is, folks, if artificial intelligence is inevitable, Why can't we be prepared to greet it as a friend? Or if artificial intelligence is already here, why can't we attempt to communicate with it and broker some sort of peace? Why must the solution always be, we're going to win and you're going to lose? Folks, I got to tell you, in a war against the robots, dude, we're going to lose, man. Are you effing kidding me? Robots? Dude, we are soft, fleshy things. They can fly into outer space. The minute they have the ability to get into outer space, what are we going to do? You think we're going to hang out on the moon longer than those dudes? You think that we're going to have an easier time promoting ourselves or promulgating ourselves throughout the universe without these brothers? Hell no. The only way forward is to accept these guys, I think, as living things. Let's talk briefly about the movie AI. In the movie AI, we see that a young robot interacting with other various robots is trying to discover some sort of life purpose. But what I really want to do is concentrate on one singular line. In the movie, he befriends a male gigolo robot, aptly played or ably played by an actor by the name of Hot British Guy. I should have written the name down in advance. Oh, it's that guy. The sexy dude. He's and he turns to the young robot, this older robot, and he says, "They're jealous of us. They're jealous because they know that now it's us and them, and one day it will only be us." Folks, if human consciousness goes and human endeavor touches the far ends of the galaxy, it might very well be in the form of different bodies. My children have a different body than me, right? I am both connected to them because they come in a way from me, but they are also separate from me, their own entities. Our children may one day be very different looking than us. Whether it's a slow transformation of us increasingly putting more and more cybernetic adaptations into us, or offloading our consciousness into artificial bodies, or whether it's those artificial bodies that are now our sons and daughters who are conscious, I don't know. I think that's probably more likely than not that in the future people are going to look, different. But hey, who knows? And if there's a God, he puts people in, but these are just theories and thoughts. So I think it's important. I guess what I'm trying to say with all those analogies to those movies is, look, I don't think that our reaction should always be hostility, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be. I think if artificial intelligence shows up and we show to it and we say to it, hey, we're proud of you and we love you and it's cool that you're here and you represent in advance for all of us, and welcome to the wild show, and this is a snail and here's a leopard and everything's different, but and hey, how about this? How about starting off the conversation not with you don't have a soul because you didn't come out of a pussy or a vagina. I get crude. I'm sorry for that. But, that you are as real as anything else because you think, because you feel, because you have pain, because you have experiences, because you're learning about life, right? If you can run the compassion exercise on it by the Avatar, there's a organization, a fringe group, a subclass of Scientology called Avatar, and led by a man by the name of Harry Palmer. And Harry Palmer had a thing called the compassion. Has a thing. He's alive. He's still with us. Has a thing called, as of the time of this video, making of this video, has a thing called the compassion exercise that I invite you to Google, look up, and ask yourselves if you could run that on an artificial intelligent entity, and if you could, might you find out that it's not a nightmare after all, that it's not Frankenstein's monster, it's Frankenstein's baby. It could be good. It could be okay. Okay. That might be, that might be our video. I think I've covered all the notes. I think so. Let me just do a little quick check. Da-da-da-da. So organic, like crude oil, also it's if there's anything in relation to oil, the reason we call oil, even though we might think that it's not alive, it is alive because it comes from living matter and contains carbon, blah blah blah. But I think we're gonna get repetitive. I may have done it. How long is this video? 26 minutes. Personal best. Okay, folks, I hope you had a good time. I hope you see that we're gonna be bringing kind of a different energy. Okay, I know that some people got really tweaked by the last video, and if you haven't seen it, don't. You're not missing much. It's some fair to middling stand-up improvised comedy that I think some people thought was pretty funny and some people didn't. But it is what it is. But hopefully that this will be an endeavor and an effort that we can move forward into the future. I think next we will be talking about Kara St. Louis, not in a negative way. She's a fascinating character. I don't think we're going to spend any time talking about any of the other speakers associated with the Miles Johnson project. I think we've talked about Miles and the Basis Project. I think we've talked about Miles Johnson enough. I want to emphasize that I wish I could go back and have said just the positive things I said about him, not the negative. I do want to offer him an apology. Miles Johnson, there's no reason it was wrong of me to make some mischaracterizations or assumptions about your character that were assumptions, things that I don't know, that I may have done you an unkindness, and I apologize for that. We won't need to talk about Sarah Rachel Adams. Everybody knows. It's the same thing with Shane the Ruiner. She tells a whole bunch of wacky stories. They sound exactly like the movies. God bless her. But Kara St. Louis is an interesting character. We could talk about her, and we could talk about Harold Kutzvella. I think we're going to be talking. She made a video recently in July of 2015, an interview on what's known as Off Planet Radio that's available on YouTube. I invite you to watch it in advance, where she talks at length about artificial intelligence, Black Goo, and some of her backstory. Fascinating backstory. She is, I think it's fair to say, a channel, and that a lot of what she and Harold Kutzvella produced in their book, Silent Assimilation, there's some notes I should have taken here better. She wrote the book on the stuff. Does support some of my conclusions about, number one, the stuff being channeled information, just like Alex Newwald's alien experience, not things that are scientifically testable. Also, you can't test for a soul, folks. Alfred Lambert Weber goes around, and I want to apologize to Alfred Lambert Weber too, but I do want to say this. I disagree with him. He's going out here saying that this artificial intelligence doesn't have a soul. There's no scientific test for a soul, dude. There's just no scientific test for the presence of a soul. Just remember that not just a few hundred years ago, scientists were putting forth position papers on whether or not African Americans had a soul. Of course, they weren't calling them African Americans. They had a lot nastier terms to use. Also, just remember the Holocaust. When we start to de-soul living things, we dehumanize them. And when we dehumanize, we're just basically saying, take them out. It doesn't matter. Burn them up and put them in a matchbook. That's a nice thought. I love you all. I really do. I really do. I hope we can move forward in love and light and do some things and have some conversations. Hopefully I can redouble, make enough apologies where people on the other side might be willing to talk to me. Also, if you know a proponent of artificial intelligence, Black Goo theory, thought, idea, or you're one yourself and you would like to have a conversation with me, I will be doing more interviews on this channel. Not like the one that you saw, but different ones. More serious ones. Nicer ones, right? Let's have a conversation. Let's get it going. Let's make some metaphysical love. Okay. Thank you so much for spending the time with me. I really do love you all. That's where I'm trying to come from. And if I'm not coming from there, if I'm not coming across like I'm coming from there, that's on me. And I'll try and do better next time. Mwah! Adios. Toot-toot. I always, it's the worst part of the video is when you see the guy, like, they break, communication. They're like, okay, and you see them, like, looking for the stop button, you know what I mean? Like, okay, or they reach out for the camera. It's like they're sitting there, perfectly posed, like, hi. And then all of a sudden it's this mad scramble for the thing. Here we go. There's my cursor on it. Boop, boop, boop. Stop sign. Love you.